The Student Hosteling Program in Conway, Massachusetts is the country's oldest and foremost bicycle touring organization for teenagers and is accredited by the American Camping Association. Each summer, we send 60 to 70 groups on a wide selection of 2 to 9 week trips throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe. Many of the trips are camping trips, but we also offer a number of non-camping tours that use small inns, youth hostels, and European bed and breakfasts. Although the biking on most SHP trips is moderate, there are many trips with easier cycling and several that are more challenging, including a 9-week trip across the United States. There are 10 or 11 teenagers in each group, who are generally very close in age. Almost all of the groups are co-ed, and each group has 2 leaders, male and female. SHP's goal is to give teenagers an opportunity to learn about the world and themselves through experiences of their own making. You'll spend most of your trip with a group of people who start out as strangers and end up being your closest friends. Learning how to share and compromise with people whose experiences and backgrounds are different from your own is one of the most important aspects of any SHP trip. Each year, we get a lot of questions about what happens on a bike trip. So in the next few minutes, you'll see several SHP groups in Vermont on a typical day. You'll get an idea of how you'll live, what you'll eat, what the bicycling is like, and what you'll do when you're not cycling. You'll also hear from people like yourselves who have traveled with SHP on past trips and who can give you a good idea of what an SHP trip is really like. Whether you spent the night at a campground or a hostel, you'll usually wake up around 7 or 7:30. If you're staying in a hostel, you'll sleep in bunk beds in dorm rooms. If you're camping, you'll have a warm sleeping bag, foam pad, and waterproof tent which SHP provides. All hostels and most campgrounds have full shower and bath facilities.
Before I came on the trip, I'd never been camping before. And I was kind of nervous because I didn't know how to set up a tent. I didn't know how to do anything that had to do with camping. By the end of the trip, I could have set up the tent blindfolded with one hand and one leg tied behind my back.
On camping trips, the tents are taken down and most trippers pack up their gear while the cooking committee gets breakfast ready. Chores like cooking, cleaning, shopping, and fire building are shared by group members on a rotating basis.
I wasn't really nervous about what the kids would be like. I was nervous if people would be like just get involved with 1 or 2 people and not everyone would be friends, but it turned out that our group, we were all friends. I think more kids were afraid that depended what you were like in school, if you had a lot of friends, if you didn't. No one took that into consideration because you didn't even know. I mean, you took the person for what they were, and everyone just got along really well.
After breakfast, the bikes are loaded. All of the group equipment, such as tents and extra food, is evenly divided and carried on your bicycles. SHP provides every tripper with bright orange panniers and handlebar bags, which help give you maximum visibility on the road. Because of our concern for your safety, SHP was the first organization to require that you wear safety helmets whenever cycling. Before starting out in the day's ride, your group will go over the route notes and plan where to take breaks together.
South to Grafton, stay on Route 35, go from Grafton to Simpsonville, and then to Townsend, where we're staying tonight.
Okay, who's going to be lead rider today? David, you want to be?
Yeah, why not?
You want to? Okay.
Right.
I want you to have a check stop at the bottom of the Gray Road when we intersect Route 11. I want one in Chester right before you get to town, right in the, as soon as it gets congested or what have you. The other one, let's have one in Grafton.
Yeah.
And after Grafton, let's have one. There's a long uphill out of Grafton. We'll have one at the top of the hill.
Everyone cycles along the same route. You'll usually ride on back roads and country lanes, which means you'll not only avoid a lot of traffic, but you'll get to see what many other people miss. Each day, a different person in your group will be the lead rider. The senior leader always brings up the rear, so slower riders don't need to worry about falling behind. You can cycle at your own pace, alone or with friends, and you can stop whenever you want to enjoy the view, take a picture, or cool off.
I think that, like, when you're on a bike, you just notice so much more than you could if you were in a car or a bus, or if you're, like, flying from city to city and completely ignoring the countryside. The most exciting things in France and Switzerland were the little towns that you went into where you camped, which no bus or no, like, tour would have stopped in, because there was no, quote, tourist attraction. All that was there was, like, the people and the farmland and the hills and incredible, incredible views.
When you're biking, I mean, you see so much more. You see the people. You're not likely to get off a bus and if you see some person that looks interesting to talk to on the side of the road that's hiking along, you're not likely to stop and get off. But when you're on your bike, I mean, even if it's just a passing hello, you get more of the flavor of where you are.
Anyone in good health can handle the cycling, and there are first-time trippers on all SHP tours, including the most difficult. You also don't need to know anything about fixing your bike. All our leaders are fully trained in bike repair and carry the tools and parts necessary to fix everything from a flat tire to a broken derailleur. Of course, if you want to learn how to make your own repairs, leaders are more than willing to help you.
The leader of my trip, she was so amazing. She had biked everywhere. She told us about, I think it was 2 years ago, she had biked across the country with her brother and her brother's friend. And so she really had a lot of experience biking, and she knew a lot about bike repairs, because when she went across the country, she camped or stayed in hostels all the time, and there was no one else to fix her bike, so she had to know all that. And she was so much fun. We laughed so much on that trip.
Groups usually cycle about 25 to 40 miles on a travel day, about 4 to 5 hours of actual cycling. You usually won't cycle 5 hours all at once, however. Check stops are planned every 3 to 10 miles along the route. Although some check stops are at confusing junctions or at places where extra caution is necessary, other check stops are simply places where you can relax for a moment or perhaps enjoy a mid-morning snack at a country store.
Most of the days we bike between 25 and 35 miles, and every fourth or fifth day there'd be a longer ride. One day we had a 60 plus ride, which was a lot of fun because the whole day you kept looking at your map and seeing how much further you had to go. It sort of became a race with ourselves on see how far we could go, how fast. But it never really was that difficult. The uphills, you just had to put yourself in a rhythm, go in a low gear. And once you were in a low gear and a rhythm, you really didn't notice how long it took you to go up, and it didn't hurt your legs that much because it was such a rhythm. So that the hills weren't that difficult, and the distances never really seemed as long as, like, when you said the mileage. Like when you say 60 miles, it seems really long. When your bike didn't seem like 60 miles.
Sometimes your group will stop at places where you can go swimming or beachcombing, explore small villages, or enjoy a scenic spot. Of course, everyone's favorite check stop is lunch. Picnic lunches are great opportunities for your group to take a break, relax, and have fun together. In Europe, for example, your group might stop to eat at a sidewalk cafe or buy fresh cheese from a local farm.
We really did have good meals, and we ate a lot of ice cream. Whenever we'd go into a town, we had ice cream, but besides, we didn't have a lot of junk food. I mean, you could buy your own, but for meals, we had healthy meals because the leaders would follow you around the store and make suggestions on what you should buy. They'd never tell you, they'd never say, no, you can't have that, but they would make suggestions that we should get the wheat bread instead of the Wonder.
After lunch, you'll get back on your bikes to finish the day's ride. But SHP groups don't just cycle directly to their campground or hostel. They stop often to explore the scenery, people, and activities that make any place special. Layovers are planned into the itinerary every few days at places of special interest. Your group might spend a day swimming at a waterfall in Vermont, or sledding down a glacier in the Canadian Rockies. In Europe, you might explore a castle or take a cable car to the top of a Swiss mountain. Most trips have several pre-planned activities, such as sightseeing tours of Paris, Amsterdam, or Vienna, summer skiing in Austria, rafting through the Gunnison Gorge in Colorado, or watching for whales off the coast of Cape Cod.
We stayed on a farm one night, and we were all looking forward to next morning when we were planning on going horseback riding. I think they had 8 horses, and they were going to take us, they were near a mountain. I think it wasn't really a mountain, I think it was called Blueberry Hill. And we, with one of the people that lived on the farm, we took their horses up for about an hour-and-a-half ride, and the scenery was so beautiful. We looked out over fields, and it was really, really beautiful.
Late in the afternoon, your group will cycle the last few miles to the hostel or campground after having stopped to buy food at a local grocery store. With SHP, you never have to worry about where you're going to stay each night and whether there'll be room. All your overnight stops are reserved well in advance, and SHP trip planners make every effort to book your group at the best campgrounds, inns, or hostels in each area.
Camping I thought was great fun. I mean, you're so tired after you finish biking. It's a fun tiredness. It's like you accomplish something. And then you just lie down, and it doesn't matter whether you're on a slant, whether you're flat, whether there's a little bump. I always just fell right asleep because it's just a perfect kind of tired.
If you're staying at a hostel, you'll have a fully equipped kitchen where your group can cook dinner. If you're camping, you'll usually cook your meals over a campfire.
The nicest place I think we stayed, it was a tiny campground, but it was right on the beach. Where we stayed, the road that ran through the campground, it wasn't really even a road. It was all sand, and there were probably only maybe 20 tents that were set up there, but you were right on the beach. And at night, both nights we were there, we made a campfire on the beach, and we just relaxed, but we had so much fun. It was since it was at the beginning, everyone was getting to know each other, and it was just really neat just to be on the beach and getting to know everyone. And
what you do after dinner usually depends on where your group is staying. You might form an impromptu musical group, toast marshmallows, and talk by a roaring fire. You might use public transportation to get to a local movie or play, or explore the city of Paris by night, or start a game of ultimate frisbee. Like the day, most SHP trips are over too soon, but you'll carry with you the memories of every experience you've had, each friend you've made for many years to come.
the last day of our trip was so sad. I mean, we had an 8-hour ride in the van coming back, and I don't think anyone said more than 3 words the whole way back. Everyone was just thinking about what good friends we'd become and when we were going to see each other again, and thinking about how hard it was going to be to say goodbye. And when we finally got to the end of the trip, there were so many tears that, I mean, we had so much fun the whole time. This was the only part that was sad. It was like a letdown to see everyone go.
The biggest thing I got out of the bike trip was a sense of accomplishment. When you finish biking up a very long hill, or when you look back at the maps the next January when you're freezing, and you see how far you biked and how much you saw, and you look back over the photographs of where you've been, you just think about it. It's such an accomplishment, and it's such a great feeling to be able to say, I biked that, I did that on my own power.
The most memorable thing, not really the most memorable, but what I got most out of this bike trip was the kids were amazing. The kids were so nice, and we made the trip for each other, I think.
For more information about SHP bike trips, please call 1-800-343-6132 or write to the Student Hosteling Program, Ashfield Road, Conway, Massachusetts 01341.